Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Sine, cosine, and tangent ratios. And when we talk about the ratios, we're talking about the side ratios. So here's a right triangle. This is the 90 degrees, which means that this side opposite the 90 degrees is always going to be the hypotenuse. Can't be anything else. It's the hypotenuse side. Now I'm going to have an angle here. I'm going to call this angle A. And everything that I do from here on in is in reference to angle A. So from angle A, we have a side that is directly opposite to angle A. That's the symbol for angle. So this side, this is the opposite side to angle A. Now, this side is beside angle A. It's right beside it. Now, we don't say side beside A. I don't know why we don't, but we don't. We have a special word for that. We call it adjacent. And adjacent means to be beside something. So this is the adjacent side to angle A. And it's the one that's beside A that's not the hypotenuse. Okay? So I have this side and I have this side. Now if I had angle B, if I was talking about this angle up here, and if I called that angle B, then this would be the side opposite to angle B. And this would be the side opposite to angle B. No, sorry, adjacent to angle B. And this would be the hypotenuse still because it's opposite the 90. So the hypotenuse doesn't change. But certainly opposite and adjacent depend on what angle you're looking at. So once again, if I'm looking at this angle, this would be the side opposite to angle B. But if I'm looking at angle A, this is the side adjacent to angle A. So very, very important that we know which angle we're referencing. So sine of angle A is equal to a ratio. And it's a side length ratio. And it's going to be the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse side. Cosine is the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse side. And tangent is going to be the opposite side divided by the adjacent side. Now we can shorten that. We can make it shorter. We can say opposite over hyp. We can say adjacent over hyp. And we can say opposite over adjacent. And that can be shortened even more. O over H, I guess. A over H. And O over A. As long as we know what the O and the A and the H stands for, we're okay. Now, there's a way of memorizing this, and that's called Sohcahtoa, and that's just a word. It's not really a word, it's an acronym, and it's SOHCAHTOA. And what it does is it helps you remember that sine, not sin, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, that cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. And you have to know that. And you can't do these questions without knowing it, and you're just going to have to know that information really well. So let's take a look at a couple of questions. So solve for x in each of the following. Round your answers to 2 decimals. First of all, you need to make sure that your calculators are in degrees. If they're not in degrees, you have to change the mode to get them in degrees. Either find a reset button on your calculator and press it, or in some of your calculators you can clear the memory. You'll hit shift, clear, and then it'll say clear memory, and it'll say reset all, hit reset all, and then hit equals. And other ones you have to change the mode. In this one, you have to change the mode by hitting the mode button and then hitting the proper button to change it from degrees, radians, or gradients. But in any case, your calculator needs to be in degrees. If it's not, and you can't figure out what to do, then that's a Google question. Put in your type of calculator that you have and say how to change to degree mode. And Google will provide you with the answers. And probably YouTube too. There'll be videos on there to help you with that. Now, many of us had problems with this in grade 10, so let me give you a procedure that's always going to work. First of all, find the 90 degrees. From the 90 degrees, determine your hypotenuse side. That's the first thing. Step 1, do that. Do that for all your questions. Step 2, figuring out which angle you're referencing. We're referencing the 40 degrees. So from the 40 degrees, this would be the opposite side. This is the adjacent side because it's the side that's beside the 40 degrees, but it's not the hypotenuse. Now, circle what you know. You know that the adjacent is x, and you know that the hypotenuse is 130. You don't know opposite. So the question is, which trig ratio, sine, cosine, or tangent, works with adjacent and hypotenuse? You have to know this part. This is the part where you got to think. Adjacent hypotenuse is cosine. So cosine of 40 degrees, so the angle, equals the adjacent side, which is x, over 130. That is your ratio. From there, we're going to be able to solve. Now, this is just a decimal. Depending on your calculator, if you hit 40 then cosine first, you get the decimal equivalent. On other calculators, you have to hit cosine then 40. So again, my calculator is 40 then cosine. Other calculators, you have to hit cosine first, put in the 40 and hit equals. But in any case, this cosine 40 degrees is simply this decimal. That's what it is. So, if I think about this, it's over top of 1. I can cross multiply, and I'm going to get 130 times cosine of 40 degrees equals x, which means I'm going to do, I'll do it again on my calculator. I start here, so I do 40 cosine, that's that decimal, times 130 equals, and I get x equals approximately 99.59 for 2 decimal rounding, because this 5 changes that 8 to a 9, which means that this length will be 99.59 centimeters approximately, using trigonometry. Let's look at B. So again, same setup. Find your 90 degrees. Find your hypotenuse. Determine the angle that you're working with. This will be opposite to that angle. This will be adjacent because it's beside the angle and it's not the hypotenuse. Which ones do we know? We know opposite and hypotenuse. So this is where you got to know a little bit of math. Which trig ratio uses opposite and hypotenuse? That's going to be sine, not sin. Sin is for religion class. Sine is for math class. So it's going to be opposite. Opposite, which is x, over hypotenuse. So again, this is a decimal. This is simply 58 sine. That's the decimal that it is. So I'm going to put it over top of 1, and I'm going to cross multiply. That's going to give me 70 sine 58 equals x. So x equals approximately 59.36 meters, meaning that this length is 59.36 meters approximately. And the last one, let's see if you can do it. Why don't you pause the video right now, and why don't you go and try it. Pause. Okay, welcome back. So here's your 90. There's my hypotenuse. This is going to be, which is the angle that I'm working with? This angle. So this is opposite the angle I'm working with. This is adjacent because it's beside the angle and it's not the hypotenuse. So what do I know? I know opposite, I know adjacent, so that's going to be tangent. Tangent to 25 is going to be x over 13. Again, tan of 25 is simply a decimal. That's the decimal it is. So I'm going to cross multiply. And I'm going to get 6.06 because that 1 is not going to round up that 6. And that's in millimeters. Okay, so hopefully you got that right. And there's some more practice on the back. Go do those. The answers are at the bottom of the sheet, and we'll see you in a bit.